Everybody that's coming out, that's already shown support. Man, this is a huge event. I just can't thank everybody enough. We got food, we got sponsors, we got a whole painting over here that's gonna be auctioned off, man. If you're not here, get down here. You're gonna love it. I'm telling you, you're gonna have a fantastic time. Thank you guys so much, man. I couldn't have done any of this event without y'all. So appreciate y'all. Much love.
Give me the phone that you got playing the music. Because, sir, every time you walk, it's like doo-ka-doo-ka-doo. So first and foremost, right, we are here for the book release and launch for Sean, William, Flo, Harris. Okay, so what I want y'all to do for me really, really quickly is one more time with all of the energy. Y'all get some noise for Mr. Sean, Harris, William. I'm so excited to be here with you guys tonight. Yo, yo, yo. It's your girl, Crystal Abuse. I'm coming to the full effect and always asking, did you miss me? Of course you have. And tonight, I am really excited to be at the helm of this particular event because this is actually my friend. This is someone that I know. I've actually kind of grew up in poetry with, if you will, lyricism, if you will. And so I'm really excited to be here anchoring and flowing with Mr. Harris tonight. We're going to put some respect on his name tonight. So if y'all would do me a favor, we're going to do a little call and response. We're going to make sure the energy is calibrated because, you know, we're excited for the newness, you know, entrepreneurship, publishing, that, all of this stuff. So he's coming into a new season, and as you know, when you're going into a new season, you need as much support and love as you can. So tonight we're here to support him in his vision on tonight with this book release. And so, yes, we are going to get things started. So I'm going to put out just a few rules and regulations to make sure that the energy is calibrated and to make sure we know how to act off up in here, right? So the object of tonight is to listen. The object of tonight is to learn, to get insight on the inner workings, maybe the inner thinkings of the why behind Senseless Time, which is the book. There are visuals here. One of the things that I'm really, really like emotionally pulled by, for those that have not already read the book, this particular piece is a direct reflection. This one right here is a direct reflection of the book, and I'm sure, I don't know what excerpts he's going to read and so forth, but I'm really excited. And as you finish reading the book, this image will become more clear to you and become, I think, a little bit more emotional for you. So I'm excited that I already kind of got the inside joke. I'm so sorry. It's fine. You get to read the book too. But tonight, we're going to reveal some things to you. So if you're ready, let me hear you say, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Say, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Again, we want to make sure the energy is at a certain level, right? So we're going to do a little call and response. I'm going to say, hey, yo. And you're going to say, hi. Ready? Here we go. Hey, yo. Hi. One more time. Hey, yo. Hi. Feels real good. We're going to do that throughout the night. As soon as I see y'all getting a little love, we're going to bring it back up with that, all right? A little call and response. But the first thing I want to do is invite some talent up here. Throughout the night, you will hear from some talented lyricists, poets, artists, and I'm excited to introduce them. So the first person I'm going to bring up to you, I had the pleasure of listening to him a few years ago at the Hayti, I think he was, and it was really exciting then. So I'm glad to hear again from him. So y'all please make some noise for artist, Art. Hold on, let me make sure I get his name right, because I always want to call him Antonio, but it's not. It's like Antino, right? Did I get it right? Okay, Antino Art, yes. All right, so y'all give it up one time for Antino Art.
Love us like you love our food and culture. Love us like you love our food and culture. Sorry, I didn't realize anyone saw me. My bad. Oceaque is the silent art of bowing used to show humility in social settings. It's an Asian tradition. I bow my head over a silent phone, waiting for the name of my romantic interest to light the screen with a reply that never comes. Mankind calls this being ghosted. Asian mankind, however, we don't get that privilege. We're ninjas, right? We were never seen in the first place. Yo, when it comes to dating, we're at a cock-block disadvantage. I'm not one to point fingers, but I can't help but raise the one at the window of desire. Pop culture media. We are good with numbers, soft-spoken extras, last pick on the team of Marvel superheroes, but first choice for Kung Flu villain of a global pandemic so that the directors in power can call the shots for how the day was saved. Yo, even the Big Bang Theory has it all wrong. Y'all watch that show? Like, according to the scripting formula, we should have been a poster child on that squad of brains who make being pushed over look hilarious. Instead, they gave the jokes to Sheldon, the girl to Leonard. Raj, our rep by proxy, doesn't talk. Unless he has like one beer. Don't you get it? Don't you get it? The subtext is silence and the inability to hold liquor. I mean, how is that supposed to be worthy of her reply? Oh, she texted. Never mind, it's my mom. And the nth time I have been put on a waiting list for a callback to only be cast as less than boyfriend material. We make novel friends at best. We check diversity quotas and make social circles look cultured, inclusive. We're usually the good guys who support the good guys, like the sidekick's sidekick. We get maybe one scene, a line of dialogue to leave our fingerprints on the story. American history wasn't as inclusive. We had no scenes, no dialogue. You never saw the faces of our children behind internment camp cages next to the shipwrecks of Pearl Harbor. You never saw the smoke rising from the ashes of our village in Vietnam. Never heard the screams of our mothers as GIs pillaged their way through wombs as a prelude to the Southeast Asian sex trade industry. Have you not seen the war movie The Last Samurai? Starring Tom Cruise. I actually liked it, but whether historical fact or Hollywood fiction, they swagger-jacked our narrative, killed our forefathers, gang-raped our motherland, and keep adopting our babies. So that's why the white man always gets the Asian girl and calls the colonization yellow fever. The reverse colorway was never in our brand usage guidelines. Unless it's on a reality show like John and Kate Plus 8. Y'all go watch that? Where the father of 8 biracial kids gets henpecked out of his own house. Yo, we have been pistol whipped out of our own inheritance. You didn't even feel our knees hit the ground. And every time the camera zooms in and turns me into a ghost she can't picture herself with, the ghosts of my ancestors turn in their graves because being erased still hurts. She checks and texts back a week later, says sorry. Want to know why? I got an idea. It's called Ghost Thou Theory. How can she see me when I have been portrayed for centuries with my forehead to the ground? If only to let the empires build their railroads on my back. I can just as easily build a romantic relationship that lasts, for we have strong work ethic, get good grades, boast the highest graduation rates among any minority, and thrive under the weight of palanquins that carry the white-collar workloads we shoulder. She admires the chivalry that swipes left. She's an algorithm programmed to favor the supremacy of knight's armor over yellow or brown skin, to swoon over these John Smith explorers in their frigates disguised as Mayflowers. Wolf gray gunmetal under sheep white sails, and I am a war-torn country that has ceded so much territory to where she cannot find me on the map, no matter how many signs of interest I give. There's no signal. My last call went straight to voicemail. So ladies, is it a connection thing? Or does falling for you look too much like a bow you were accustomed to walking past? Now, I'll just be honest, I'm just out here trying to use poetry to get girls. TBH. But who needs girls when you have poetry night? Right. But, like, so, I was gonna say, like, if no one's gonna end sexual racism towards Far Eastern mankind, I might as well try. Yes. So my name is Arthur. Mike's call me Antino Art. And if you can't remember that, just remember I'm a poet with a sword. It's an umbrella. It's just never lose a duel to a rainy day, I always say. And I really appreciate Flow Essence, man. I came all the way out here. I rode the train from Raleigh. It was a cool introspective journey. But give him a hand for he wrote a book, man. So not as impressive, but I got a micro chapbook that I just finished. It's called Treatise on the Wolf God. Poems about wolves, really, because the lone wolf is kind of my animal spirit. And I also got other wares that you can come check out. This is a print of an award-winning poem that my 6-year-old daughter wrote. Yeah, no, I don't even understand. Like, her power level is just off the chart. Because she wrote this on a typewriter, like a vintage typewriter, and she painted over it, sends it into this school-wide arts competition, and it got first place, man. Yeah. So y'all can get a copy of this. This is $5, or pay what you want, really. Suggested donation $5. Treat us on the Wolf God is 10. At the end, I take cash, PayPal, and all that. So that book that Sean wrote, Senseless Time, deals in time, which is a really intriguing theme, because we don't have enough of it, right? It's kind of sacred. You can't really just squander it. So I figured the next piece I do, let me show you, it has a visual aid. Can y'all see that in the front? Yeah. In the back, can y'all see that? You know what that is? Yeah, hourglass. It's exactly 3 minutes in here. So this piece is going to be my life story in 3 minutes from the perspective of my hometown, South Florida. Arthur Alesna Antonio fell from grace when he left me for Raleigh, North Carolina. His wife of 10 years left him for another person. He spent his life savings on plane tickets going from one city to the next every month, became a single parent. Then 2020 struck. His daughter gets hospitalized with pneumonia. His mom gets diagnosed with cancer. Have I mentioned he hasn't been laid in years? But don't feel sorry for him. People have it worse. Plus, that's what he gets for leaving me after being born and raised on my good soil. He never fit in here anyway, the same way winter, Christmas Eve, 1985 never fit in with my subtropical secular climate. His mom cooked the feast that night. Fried rice, egg rolls, torta, all the Filipino delicacies. Yo, he was actually pretty well fed. Scrawny, had a big head. Made him stand out though. They called him Chinese baboon in a rich white elementary school. They called him Yao Ming in a poor black high school. Never passed him the ball. So what does he do? He stakes claim to an identity of his own. Spikes his hair like Sonic the Hedgehog. Earns a black belt in Kenpo karate. Never had to use it. He learned how to deal a royal flush in command in band class. He learned how to strike a match, blow it out, and turn it into a flower. Girls never noticed. They were too busy disappearing into ghosts. Becoming taken, being just friends, so he learns how to dance on his own 2 feet. On a cardboard box in the middle of the garage, doing in circles in 6 steps and elbow freezes. He broke his shoulder in a weird, awkward b-boy stance you can imagine, because he was so damn awkward, danced with no one at prom. But he did go to the after party where he played Halo on Microsoft Xbox with 16 other dudes. Had the time of his life. In fact, his idea of partying in college was paying $5 for the all-you-can-eat breakfast buffet in the dining hall, studying until the lights came on. He graduated in the recession of 2008. Magna cum laude. 0 job offers. So what does he do? He takes that advertising degree and becomes a traveling magician. They called him Antino Art. He did the impossible, including finding a girl at the end of a show on the other side of the world. Cebu City, Philippines. Breaks the curse of going through all of high school, all of college with no romantic interest. So what does he do? Marries her, of course, has a kid, moves back to Florida, and gets a job doing marketing for Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. Man, he got it made. I was paradise. I was like the Garden of Eden until he left. But don't feel sorry for him. I heard he's doing well. If I couldn't do it, I doubt there's any place in the world that can snuff the light out of someone born on the same night as Jesus Christ. He never fit in. He stood out like the stars that wise men tend to follow.
Well, all right, y'all give it up one more time for Antino Art. Very profound words. We're going to keep this event rolling right along. We're going to offer up another talented poet to come on up. Now, this young lady just had a birthday. So she's fine and a year older and very talented. So please put your hands together for Miss Oceaque.
high school, and I'm going to read a few poems from there. I'm going to do it in a sequence to where it kind of tells a story when you first fall in love with somebody and then when you fall out in love with them. This first piece is called Unguilty Pleasure. It's been months, even years that I've been waiting for this. Don't get me wrong, I've always been satisfied by your rocket ship lips. I will board them, gathering every part of me that I can find, and they take me to a place where only they can. But tonight, you have permission to give me more. And I'm not complaining about the almost dids and the maybe we should stop that has led us up to this moment. But tonight, there's no need for us to put a halt on our mutual cravings. No stoplights, just an array of greens. And tomorrow you don't have to speak in a tone saturated in disappointment about how you almost got into my jeans. Because now that we have this ring, we have God's permission. So let's make our way to the kitchen with delicious foreplays dripping of unwavering desire. And I know I've been shy before. That's something that you've always admired, but now that we've gotten through the dinner phase, it's time for dessert. I mean, when has a little sugar ever hurt? Prop me up on the counter and examine my bare body. Stir me until my contents spill from outside of me. Place those curious hands wherever you want them to go. I won't fight. Perhaps a little noise, because these are sensations caused by perfectly stroked penetrations that I've never felt before. And like anyone that has ever had sweets, I want more. So you take me to the table. Serve me up with a little ice cream on the side. You say, I like the way it complements your sweet feeling inside. I blush. With raspberry cheeks, you kiss both, resembling an uptight meet and greet. I like when you do that. As our high-strung senses from this rush wears out, we clean up the left-behind ingredients. But don't worry, we'll be back later. And when we are fully recovered, I will turn you into the submissive lover. And I will give you tasty delectables that you couldn't resist even if you tried. I'll admire your package, then pour you into the mixing bowl. And once I've attained the perfect mix, I'll lick the spoon if you want. Kiss your saccharine lips if you want. Sketch my fervent fingers down your spine if you want. Baby, I'm the chef, and I'll whip up any dessert you want, since I have permission. That's the first one. And this next poem is called Metaphoric Grief. I feel like lately I've been in the process of burying my own child. I mean, we did make this love, right? Like we make a child, right? Cherished it with our whole hearts, stared at it in awe of the mere essence of it being our own. Thinking of all of the possibilities of new memories that would surpass any that we've made before. Except for the fact that she didn't live that long. And now we blame each other for the unexpected downfall of the love that was once the truth but now lies. Just adding to the relentless pain that cycles through our veins like shards of glass is channeling through them. When in all honesty, even though she's unbearably absent, our love child wishes that we be mild and conduct ourselves the way we used to when we browsed the shelf with wide eyes searching for items that we saw fit for her. And from stories we've heard before, we knew that some days love would be too heavy for us to carry on our shoulders. But now, it's hate that wounds itself in our bellies, and we can barely plan this funeral, but I guess we can summon some memories and dress ourselves in the nostalgic smells of a love that failed, just to put it in the ground. And this last piece is entitled False Advertisement. On some days, I view love as an ever-surging outlet, free of shortages, that requires one risk taken by two overly eager pawns that obnoxiously yet innocently throw themselves into it, an electrifying experience. That if it fails once, you can try again by pulling the cord and plug it again to a lower outlet. But on most days, which includes today, I view love as a streetwalker, a smooth talker that sells itself at a price that's a tad bit too high. Yet, somehow you and I still want a piece of that overrated pie. See, love blows kisses at you, trying her hardest to make you envious of anyone who has had the pleasure of holding her. And on days when she's feeling like a rebel, she lets her tongue break out just enough to make you break a smile, get your senses aroused, and even make the most saint of saints contemplate turning their car around. See, love likes to act like it doesn't know what it's doing, especially when it's under control, acting as if it hasn't had shackles on us since time's begun. That's why she laughs when people says that slavery was around for 400 years. Because she's been controlling us with a dominatrix like no other 5 times that amount in some change. Just like she seems to change us beyond repair. I mean, we come together to be together as one, under gossiping stars, seemingly indivisible, carrying out liberties full of injustice that shame us all. I mean, we pledged together. But she broke her oath, just as she broke my heart. And I know what you're saying. You can't turn a you-know-what into a housewife, and that's true, but her legs. Man, her legs peekabooed from her dress, complimenting her knockoff red-bottom shoes. And yeah, I know that I was no different than anyone who else had her before me, but I still let her have me. And even I find this ironic because I said love wasn't my thing. But she knows how to seduce mountains of truth down to forgetful grains until all logic goes down the drain. So just remember when you are in those bathrooms and back rooms that her millions of dollars in promises are counterfeit, and she'll break her oath like she broke my heart the same way she'll eventually break yours. Thank you.
Yes, one more time for Miss Oceaque. And so I just want to make something clear. The artist that drew and painted these wonderful pieces is here tonight. Miss Cass is here right there in the back. If you turn around and say, hi, Cass. Say hi, Cass. She very much painted these, and she is super talented, so make sure you tap in with her before the end of the night. She takes commissions. She does it all. So make sure that you support the local artists, all right? If you're ready for your next poem, let me hear you say, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Say, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, so this guy is very special to me. He's a little bit different than the others, and you know, in my little eyes and what have you. I have a very special relationship with this young man. I've seen him grow poetically over the years, and I'm really excited to see him featuring tonight. It's the first time I have had the pleasure of watching him feature somewhere, so it's a double whammy for me tonight. So I want to present my brother from another mother and father, Mr. HumbleRodent.
What's up, everybody? So I'm HumbleRodent. And I am beyond honored to be up here. I love Flo. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met. And I'm so happy to do this with him. And share a stage with 2 poets that I really admire. But when they speak, it makes me question if, like, I ever have anything to say. If that makes sense. Yeah. This is called A Fable About Life-Changing Pain. 3 bodies stumbled through the brush with their clothes on. Brambles snatched and tore at all the things that they had worn. One came out and they didn't change a thing. Despite the same clothes with the holes, they weren't the same. Any onlooker could snag them with an eye hook or peek at skin under looking all the damage they've sustained. Another came out and they immediately changed. New clothes, new way of walking, no stains. You could hardly recognize them from the way they wore their reins, but they had to buy them so quick they were made of cheap and common things. The last came out and simply took the clothes off. Imagine really being so soft. But even with the breeze on, running raw can really leave them rubbing smooth private skin until it's rough and cracked and bleeding, not to mention all the seething, petty pinching hands and grieving, saying, you are not allowed to show me freedom. Cast judgment, if you will, with your decision-making skills. I am sure next time you fall, you will just get up with will. Any fool can ask, well, why not just stitch up with thread? Any fool who's never seen hell or the dark side of the hedge. Of course there's ghouls with gaping holes across which spider web a thinly veiled attempt to heal, but find them running out instead. I cannot tell you if you ought to bleed or fight or bite or shed. Just know that there is no such thing as being the same again. Like Crystal said, I've never featured before, so I don't usually get to do back-to-back poems. I'm excited about that. It's like I have like a little bit of a like nature-y theme going on. It just worked out that way. And I never get to do short poems, so this is a mini poem called Leaf. One falls. It sure is windy in here, with hot air emptying out between ears. It crunches under my foot like our nice conversation. Each one marks a golden rule gone sad, as we treat each other like we treat ourselves bad. Shaking the boat a little too much, both hands grasping for control of the trunk. Our mast, made up of leaf, started strong, but piece by piece, eventually enough piled up, and then she leaps. Get it? This next one's called Words Play. Flo and Trey are always encouraging me to be rhythmic, to try out things, to freestyle. So this is a little bit like for them. It's not a freestyle, but it's just like the most fun I can have with rhythm and words. Hey. Suspicious squishy fishes lick the outside of our stitches, salty kisses on the misses calling almonds superstitious. Alma mater where it's hotter, make the balsam body saunter, fall to plotting to the potter with the swish before the fodder. Raise a tissue to the issue with the bitching and the misuse, all the excuse you can unuse to the spirit's only refuse. Let me hear it while we peer into the apex of the spear. We shed a tear that's crystal clear from all the poison we are near. Breathe. So hoist it up upon the voices, make a choice to shatter cloisters. All the safety is imperfect in the bonding of the ointment. All absconding with the fondling, fix the laundry for the flaunting on the honor, ponder blotters till the flattered city saunters. Matter dark is only sadder, matter for the baddie hatter. Swing the batter, hear the clatter when the kettle walls are shattered. Don't you meddle, always settle, leave your corners to the battle. Stay the pedal like your metal and tether Hansel to your Gretel. I'm on time. I appreciate that. Laugh. Yeah, pants will fall, tinsel tall, antsy hands full at them all. There's a chance you'll grope the dancer and cancel Christmas after all. Hope the Pope will open with candles instead of dope and roping scandals. With a toe composed of brambles just to cope with soapy answers. Amble after ample laughter, campers tramping to the rafters. Planter one decanters apples while planter two philanders masters. Cry. You blew the room tune with the boom and huge bloom nukes will use at high noon. Now the coup blew the coop and shoot up the flue with a few U-brooms. Fuck you to the moon, cue up the flute to shoot some cool blue tunes. Azul schools, pool fools, and brew tools, while the news screws, hues, and proofs to use as food for the true new goon. Who knew? Whether you were truth or the truant youth playing doom when the world finally zooms, will all sigh and say, too soon. This is called Just Complaining. It's about how when people are hurting, they often inflict damage on the ones taking care of them. Brittle stick bones crack quick under pressure. Harsh words are said in heads still destined to get sicker. I'm like the nurse of the worst parts of the pestilence, tipped on sense with no common sense to leave for my betterment. I'm fine with my flaws. I'm fine with my elements. I'm fine writing stones made of poems into elements. I don't dress well for the words that you sell. I do it just to keep myself from hell. Yeah. I don't live well to light a fire under skill. I do it so a younger one can tell. And yeah, it's a pattern I use often and swell, but I hate an old thing even still. I don't know if I'm a leaf getting angry at the wind or a boat only sailing, getting battered, bruised, and bent, but it feels a lot closer to a human's worst sins. We hurt the closest ones in the men. The earliest words were to let a field rest or watch paradise turn to dust in your hands. Even Jesus Christ said to feed an ox while he sweats and to take Sabbath well, even if Sunday's a mess. Calamity is kept in family wins. If the sun then sets, catch the lamb on the chin. Save yourself, save a friend. Whether chance or intent, you're a sponge for the hurt that a self cannot wring. Keeping dark under wing, clean cuts, dirty sheen. When the hands working hard reach for brambles as bling. Bleed silent in fear of a lot more tears, because you can't keep a good dog down over years. It's a lie. Even loyal dogs die if they're slapped for bringing the blue ball back out of spite. Now I'm tired, a dead cell, dead-filled mire. Let a little more empty transpire. Lord, please let me be fired. I'd rather go hungry at home than feel neither. Sometimes I just want to go home, but it's briared. Sometimes I just want to go home and not be home. Sometimes I just want to go home and not be home. Sometimes I just want to go home and not always have to be a home. And then this last one is a bit of a departure. Once again, Flo and Trey and everyone really, they're always encouraging me to try new things, to get out of my comfort zone, to do something new. They inspire me. This is some new shit, like today, new shit. It's an erotic poem. It's called Mountain Roads. Alright. Yeah, alright. The stockings, wait, hold on, first of all, I just want to make sure everybody, alright, like fishnet stockings, like the ones that come all the way up, like to your waist, you know, like pants.
Okay.
Y'all know about those?
Yeah.
Those are for real. Okay. Okay, anyway, I just want to make sure we all have that image. Yeah, they do something. Alright. The stockings grasp her ass like it's their very last. Hugging curves so tight, even an experienced driver would cry. I peer all the way up the mountain and empathize with the waistband just white-knuckling its way along this sheer cliffed interstate and holding on for its life at the beautiful gut-wrenching majesty of a hip's incline. Both of us say a prayer together, the fishnets and I. Please, Lord, let us get home safe. I've never felt so close to heaven. I'm dazed. I can feel the rumble strip of netting scraping against my teeth. With every single one of her toes in my mouth, she presses down. And as I move the pedal closer to the floor, with every inch it sinks lower, I feel like I'm ascending, and I beg for more. I know somewhere up there are peaks, but with a base this round and wide and tightly bound by winding roads and twine, how will I ever have enough time to climb all the way to the top? So halfway up, kissing the ground with every step I stop. They call it an overlook. But truthfully, I'm overtook by the sight of thighs stretching out over the world, and I, alone at the jewel peak of the valley, the pearl, I'm already exhausted. Surprised to have navigated my way even this far, and so parched. But the mountain is kind and merciful, and I discover, first of all, at this beautiful vertex of rolling hills and clover, a stream. A flowing mountain waterfall from which the spray makes the sun gleam, so I drink deeply for days. Whoa. In the distance, I hear a wild animal bray, while I'm lapping lapping it up like a dog in a daze, spellbound by that well-rounded sense of something greater that you can only get from true nature, losing myself in the softness of the grass, in trees and flowers and hips and ass. I knot my fingers into these netted roads like tree roots into snow, and I pull every drop of moisture from that soil before I go. I'll need it.
Yes, you will.
For my aim is high, and leaning back to admire how lucky I am to be alive, I take a deep breath and continue to drive. Thank you.
Because I'm gonna have to comment, you know what I mean? First of all, he don't be writing nasty stuff, okay? Let me just say, first of all, he is not a nasty person. He's a very private person about his stuff. You know, where Abby at? Did you perform that for Abby?
No, but it may have been inspired in that.
She hasn't heard it. So Abby is his girlfriend. Hold on. I said it. Abby is his girlfriend. And you know what he said to me? We poly though.
We are.
He said, I just want to be clear. Does anybody know what that means? Everybody looking at me like, what does that mean? More than one. That's where we're going to stop it. Poly means more than one. That's it. No other lessons needed. If you want to ask HumbleRodent yourself. Okay, we're gonna move this thing right along. We got an auction to go. All right, so Miss Cass is going to be auctioning off this beautiful piece right here. So for those that are ready, I'm really excited to do this part because I've been practicing the so that I'm able to braid this hair. I've been practicing it. So we got 75. We're gonna start the building at 80. Woo! So excited. Y'all, I watched this on TV all night, the other night. For about 2 hours, I watched a man say numbers real fast. I don't know if I got it, but I've been practicing. So I might just throw out random numbers. You might have not said anything, but I've been practicing this thing a certain kind of way. So you might have said 75, and I might say 102, but that don't mean 102. It still means the 75 that you told me. But 102 sound better coming out real fast than 75. Okay, you ready? Oh, the back. Are we all right? Okay, so we're good. So we're going to start the bidding. This is the piece in which we're bidding on. So can you come real quick and just tell a little bit about this piece? Just a little bit about it. I know for some of you guys, again, this is a direct reflection from the book. So this is supposed to represent some of what the book means and the intention behind the book. So I'm going to let you kind of give us some stuff on it, and then we'll start the bidding.
Hey y'all. Hi. So this is a piece that John had asked me to paint for tonight. It's supposed to reflect that there's all the colors going on in the world around this man, but he's kind of in his own little world and not acknowledging the beauty around him. This piece is very dear to my heart because it's the first time I've done anything abstract, anything like this. So I'm really excited about it. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Thank you.
You know, we artists and we say something about our stuff, so I want to make sure she said the things that she needs to say about it. But anyway, are you guys ready for the building? Okay, here we go. Okay. We are going to start the bidding. Do I hear 80 anywhere? We got 80 we got 80 in the back. We got 80 anywhere. This way, even if you don't say nothing, just indulge with me. You say, well, we're waiting for another number. You got 80, we got 80 in the back. We got 80 in the back. We sit on 80, we hold on 80, we're just standing on 80 right now. We're holding on 80, we're standing there holding on 80. We got 80, 85. Is this 85? 85, 81, 82, 85, 85, 85, 85, here we got 85. We're standing there, hold on, we got 80, 90, 85, 90, right here. We're holding that 90. Holding that 90. No. Can I get 100? Can I get 100? Okay, honey, we're going right now, honey. Hold it, okay, we're holding it, still holding it right now. Hold it on, honey, okay. 100 on one. 100 on, okay, 105. 105, we got 105 under here. 105 right here. 105. I'm sorry, what happened? Who got the beat? No, I'm sorry. 105 right here. I'm sorry. The black man in the back with the dreads, the locks. Okay, okay, so we got 105 right here, 110. Okay, we got 110, 115 right here, 115, whatever. We're holding that 115 right here. Okay, we got 120. All right, we got 120. We're holding that 120. So the name of the break is here. We're holding that 120. Going once. 125 going twice. So 125. Keziah, y'all give it up one time for Keziah. All right. So a couple things real quick. Huge shout out to our sponsors, Larry's Coffee. If you are into coffee, it is really good. They also do little open mics and so forth. So there's a lot of things going on right under our noses. This is happening in Raleigh. So make sure you stay tapped in. If you are interested in getting more experience, getting your artistry out to a different group of individuals, different individuals now that don't know anything about what you do and your flow, what have you. This is a great place to get started, all right? So make sure you tap in with them. But we are going to get into this reading. Now, this is what I would like for everybody to do. If you've never been to a reading before, sometimes it can feel weird listening to a reading, right? So one of the things that I like to do whenever I'm listening to a reading is try to close my eyes. It really puts you in the scene versus being so stimulated by people and the extra stuff. So you really get to hone in on the voices, on the words, and you get to visualize some of the things that they're talking about in the book. So for now, if you would like to, if you've never done this before and you need help tapping in, go ahead and close your eyes and then they'll begin the reading, all right? So if you've never done this before, this is a great way to be able to really get deep and one with the book, all right? So we have 3 excellent readers with us today. Miss Joy Hinton, Oceaque, who was one of our features tonight, and the incomparable Lee Chapman. So please welcome them and enjoy.
It was 4 p.m. Lizzie and I were at the Bachelor Art Museum over on Tryon Street. We'd been walking around looking at all the paintings we'd seen in the gallery until we stopped at one that really caught our eye. She gasped in excitement, and I knew right away that she had found the painting she'd been looking for since we arrived.
This is it.
She said.
It's so beautiful.
I saw her standing at the painting with sparkles in her eyes as if she discovered magic inside of it. What do you think it means? I asked her.
I think it's symbolic of life
She answered.
and how messed up it can be.
I nodded my head. I could see how she came to that interpretation.
What do you think it's saying?
She asked me. At first, wanting to tease her a bit and not really knowing what to say, I gave her a generic answer. Well, art is purely subjective, I said, which annoyed her. She smirked her lips and nudged my shoulder with her elbow.
Seriously? You always do that.
She whined.
I want to know what your honest thoughts are. Don't be afraid. Share them with me.
I turned and stared at the painting for a second time. The painting was abstract, but to me, it looked like a man sitting on a park bench with his head hanging, while the rain was pouring down on him. He had his umbrella in his hand, but he wasn't using it. Instead, he allowed himself to be drenched by the cloudburst. The rain was painted different colors, like a rainbow had collapsed into a million pieces. I caught her glaring at me from the corner of my eye. I felt her waiting with bated breath to hear what I had to say. I wondered why she was so eager to know my thoughts. Then I remembered. That's just how Lizzie was. She always made sure my opinions mattered, no matter how trivial I thought they were at times. Not just me. She did that with everybody. It was her way of making you feel important. I think it means that in life, we tend to focus on the wrong things and end up missing the beauty in even the saddest of things, I answered her. I saw her lips pucker and her eyebrows rose to the top of her head.
Why do you say that?
She asked. I mean, it's raining and there's probably why he has his head down, but because of that, he can't see the beauty of the rainbows, much less anything around him. I think it's showing us that there's lots of beauty in this world, even in sadness, but if we only focus on the pain, we'll never see the beauty of it. At that moment, she was looking at me with sparkles in her eyes. She'd completely taken her eyes off the painting and was staring at me as if she had found a new one.
You know, Spence, you are full of so much wisdom.
She said, as I've been told by you many times, I reminded her.
And I'll keep telling you as many times over until you realize it.
She replied. She spun around and walked out of the art room. I followed behind her. So, what else do you want to look at? I asked. There's still a bunch of art in the museum that we haven't seen yet.
Nah, I think I'm good. I've seen enough philosophical abstract paintings and depictions of white historical men to reinforce the privilege and patriarchy for at least one night.
She giggled in a joking manner, but I couldn't tell that she was joking at all. Ironically enough, a white woman just so happened to walk by the moment Lizzie said this. She overheard Lizzie's quote-unquote joke and was visibly upset. The woman puffed as she walked past us. We were both frozen as the woman kept marching down the hallway. There was an awkward silence until Lizzie started bursting out laughing. I tried not to indulge, but her chortling was contagious and always got me. I succumbed to joining her, and we bellowed down the hallway until we reached the front entrance. We walked through the revolving door and were instantly hit by a wave of heat. I put my hand up in the air as the sun was beaming down on our faces. I didn't check the weather that day, but to have been at least 90 degrees. As we were standing outside, I saw a little girl standing at a crosswalk with an ice cream cone in her hand. She had 2 scoops on her cone, and I swear I watched both of them melt in her hand by the time she crossed the street. She casually licked the melted ice cream running down her knuckles like a cat licking its paw while holding the cone in the other. Seeing that reminded me of why I hate summer. I'd rather be nestled in my room reading a book or playing video games surrounded by a sea of air conditioning. Not Lizzie though. Summer was her favorite time of year. She threw her arms out and embraced the sun like it was giving her a warm hug. She welcomed the heat and all the sweat that came with it. Mother Nature was her makeup artist and humidity her hairstylist that day. Still, she looked so beautiful. Beautiful was her second name.
Woo! That was fun.
She said, wiping the sweat from her forehead and brow.
I haven't laughed like that in years.
Yeah, that was hilarious, not even gonna lie. I followed up. So, what's next on your list? Earlier that day, Lizzie came to me with a list of all the things she wanted to do that day. She's always been the type to come up with random adventures, so was pretty used to it by now. She was waiting for me outside of my classroom with books in her hand, grinning, which is how I knew she had something up her sleeve. She asked me if I wanted to spend the day with her and showed me all the things she wanted to do on her list. So far, we've been to the sunflower garden to take pictures, flew kites on the school campus outside of Principal Howard's office, and we've been to the art museum. 3 things already done on her list. Next on it is getting food, at least I hope so, because I was starving.
I'm kind of hungry, actually.
She said, "Oh, thank God," I thought to myself. My stomach was beginning to touch my back. Yeah, I am too. You know, there's a cafe nearby. Want to try it?
Nah. Let's go to a real food place.
Like where?
Let's go to our favorite restaurant.
Which one? I mean, we've been to a lot of restaurants together.
Come on, you know, the place where we first met.
I started shuffling through the history of our restaurant adventures together, traversing through a hallway of memories until I had reached the end where it all started. Oh, you mean Snoopy's?
Yes, Snoopy's. That's my favorite restaurant.
Lizzie and I first met our freshman year of high school at this restaurant in downtown Charlotte called Snoopy's. My friends and I were sitting at this long wooden table in front of her and her friends. She didn't know me at the time, but I knew her. As a freshman, she'd already made a name for herself as the Weave Snatcher. She earned that nickname by snatching Becky Larson's hair right out of her head and beating her with it in the courtyard during lunch on the first day of school. After that, Becky started a rumor that Lizzie was jealous of her, and that's why she started the fight. But later I found out that Becky tried to steal money from Lizzie's handicapped brother, and that's why she got her ass beat. Lizzie became the most popular freshman in our school after that, but it was also because of how beautiful she was. Almost every boy in our class wanted her, including a few girls, and she even dated a senior at one point. When I saw her sitting in front of me at the restaurant, I remembered I couldn't keep my eyes off her. At first, I got nervous after she caught me staring at her. I immediately tried to look away, but it was too late. She was fully aware that I was creepily staring at her just by my delayed reaction and the way I awkwardly looked away. She just giggled to herself and continued her conversation with her friends. After a few minutes, the waiter rang the bell and called out an order to be picked up. Lizzie and I both ran up to get it, thinking he was calling out our order. Turns out we ordered the exact same thing. 2 chili cheese dogs with extra ketchup, mustard, and onions. We both stopped at the counter and stared at each other like we were about to have a showdown.
I am pretty sure this is mine.
She said. Actually, it sounds like he called out my order. I could feel the tension rising in the air as we stared at one another. Neither of us was willing to let the other have what they thought was their plate. I could see her nostrils flaring and she was breathing like a picador bull. For a second, I thought I was going to end up like Becky Larson, laid out across the lunch table with no hair and a busted lip, and then I heard the bell ring again. Another 2 chili cheese dogs with extra ketchup, onions, and mustard, the waiter yelled, and he set the plate on the counter. We both stared at the second plate and burst into laughter. We became friends after that, and later we laughed about how I almost got my butt kicked over a plate of fries and a couple of wieners. She asked me for my name, and I told her. My name is Spencer, I answered.
Pleasure to meet you, Spencer.
She said, and we shook hands.
My name is Lizzie. I think we're gonna be great friends.
And she was right. We've been great friends ever since that day. although it had been a while since we had been to that restaurant. We stopped hanging out for a while she was dating her now ex-boyfriend, Ricky. I guess he didn't like how much time the two of us got along. Wait, since when was Snoopy's your favorite restaurant? I asked.
Since now.
She answered. She threw her hands in the air like she was reaching for the sky.
Woohoo! We're going to Snoopy's!
She yelled. She turned and started to walk away, but then stopped and glanced back at me. I couldn't really tell because the sun was beaming on her face, but for a second it looked like her mouth was moving. And then she smiled. She walked closer to me, still smiling. She lifted her head just a tad bit as she was standing right under me. She hid her hands behind her back and stood on her tiptoes, moving closer. I could feel my heart throbbing like a sore thumb. Lizzie was a master at making people feel loved and embraced with just her eyes, but when you really stared into her eyes, it almost felt like she was staring at nothing at all. Like she was never looking at you and always past you. This time, for the first time, she was staring directly into my eyes. And not to sound overly cliche, but at that moment, it felt like she could see right through me. Like she could see right through into the depths of my soul. Why are you staring at me? I asked as I fumbled through the words over my beating chest.
Does this make you feel uncomfortable, Spencer?
She replied, no, it's just random, that's all. I could tell she wasn't buying it. She leaned back until she was flat-footed again, took a few steps back and spun around in her black miniskirt and green top.
What do you think about this outfit?
She asked.
At first I wasn't sure if I was going to wear this because of how hot it was, but I really like it. Plus it goes with my earrings.
She brushed her hair out of the way to flash her Nefertiti earrings I got her at the state fair. I was surprised to see that she was still wearing them. I think you look really nice, I answered her. She paused and looked at me with disappointment in her eyes, like she was looking for more of an answer.
Geez, thanks.
She replied with a lack of enthusiasm that could make Ben Stein look energetic.
You're not good at this, Spencer.
Good at what?
Talking to women?
I'll admit, she was right. I was lacking experience heavily in the women's department, but my male egoism was not about to let her know that. Oh, please. I know how to talk to women. I talk to women all the time.
Obviously, you don't. When a woman asks you how she looks, that's your cue to make her feel special. Plus, I've only seen you shoot your shot with like one person since I've known you.
She was right again. I've only ever asked out one woman in my entire life, and she ended up humiliating me in front of the entire school. Anyway, I said, changing the subject before she chopped off the rest of my manhood, let's go get something to eat. I'm starving. Her eyes lit up once again, and she yelled,
Snoopy's!
at the top of her lungs. We arrived at Snoopy's right around 5 p.m. We had an amazing time telling old stories and eating good food. Both of us got the same order we did when we first met. We hung out in front of the bar, played pool in the back room, and by the time we walked out, the sun was already setting.
It's almost nighttime already.
She yelled.
I still got so much on my list.
She started pacing back and forth. I don't ever think I've seen her get this anxious. Hey, it's okay, I told her. What else you got on your list? I'll make sure we get them all done.
Really? Your mom won't be mad if you're out too late?
She'll be all right. Tonight, I'm all yours. Her eyes sparkled again, but underneath her star-shaped pupils was a watery palace. They were like a dam that was ready to burst. She blinked heavily as if to block the waterfall and just gave me the biggest hug for what felt like forever. So, what's next on this list of yours? I asked.
All right, let's see. Next up, we have to face the fear. Ugh. Conquering the drop zone at Frankie's.
Ooh, that's a pretty big fear for you to conquer. Sure you're ready for it?
I was born ready. But just in case I chicken out, here you go. Take my notebook, and if I try to turn away, I'll have to come back to get it.
All right, 10-4. I saluted her like I was receiving orders from a lieutenant. We both laughed as we got in the car. We're sitting in our seats, butts sticking to the leather, ready for the drop zone ride to begin. The guy working the machine went over his routine checklist and then pressed the button. As we were slowly lifted, I could tell Lizzie was nervous. She had a look of terror on her face as if death were waiting for her at the top of the ride. She glanced over at me. I didn't know what to say that would comfort her, so I just smiled and said, "It'll all be okay. You've come this far. You should be proud of yourself." She grabbed my hand and squeezed it tight. I could feel my hand pulsating from the pain. She held onto it as we approached the top of the ride. We stayed up there for what felt like an eternity. I was beginning to think the ride had broken and we were going to be stuck up there. I believe Lizzie was thinking the same thing as she was beginning to panic again.
Hey, Spence?
She said in a soft voice. She glanced over at me. The ride immediately dropped down. We felt like two birds who had suddenly had their wings clipped, falling from the sky. We both screamed as we fell to the ground. What felt like forever to get to the top took less than a second to get down. Lizzie looked around and patted herself all over. After discovering her body was still intact, she realized that the ride was over and how quick it was.
Oh, that was it?
She asked.
That wasn't so bad.
Yep, that was it, I told her. Want to ride again?
Not a chance.
I couldn't help but laugh. I don't blame you, I replied. We paid the ticket to the guy working the machine and left. It was 8 p.m. as we were leaving the park. The moon was bright and the stars were perfectly aligned in the sky.
I can't believe how easy that ride was.
She said, and then gave herself a pat on the back. She plucked her phone out of her pocket. Her eyes got big as she stared at the screen, then she quickly put it back in her pocket. I didn't ask who it was because it was none of my business. So, what's next on the to-do list, I asked.
Let's see.
She pulled out her now bunched up notebook from her back pocket.
Catch a firefly.
She answered. Dope. We can go to Freedom Park if you want. I think it's nearby.
Awesome, let's go.
She then started pumping her fists in the air, yelling,
Choo-choo, all aboard the Freedom Train, Freedom Park.
She continued pumping her fist and yelling as she marched all the way to the car. Lizzie was never afraid to be herself, no matter where she was. Freedom Park was only 15 minutes away from Frankie's. Lizzie was having a hard time catching fireflies in the jar. She kept jumping up at them every time she saw one, and they'd easily dodge her. She got frustrated after 30 minutes.
Crap, why is it so freaking hard?
She asked as she kept hopping in the air. You gotta be gentle and smooth with these creatures, I told her. Let them come to you.
Say, they says the guy calling fireflies creatures.
They are creatures.
Yeah, but you don't have to call them that.
Then what do I call them?
I don't know, insects or something? Just use a nicer word.
She reached for another firefly and missed.
Damn it.
She screamed. I chuckled at her misfortune.
Are you laughing at me?
She had this angry yet calming face, like she wanted to punch me and hug me at the same time.
Why don't you come over here and do it then?
She said.
See how hard it is.
No thanks. I'm fine just where I am watching you do it.
Whatever, chicken shit.
Her phone rang again. She dug into her back pocket and pulled it out, staring blankly into the screen. Hey, you gonna answer that? I asked. She put the phone back in her pocket.
Nah, it's not important right now.
Okay. She went to pull out her phone again, maybe out of habit, but quickly remembered why she put it back in her pocket in the first place. She took a deep breath as if she was releasing the stress a simple phone call had given. At the time, I just thought it was somebody she didn't want to talk to. I had no idea who it really was.
Spence, you're a man who likes to keep track of time.
She said.
What time did we get here?
We got here at exactly 8:15 p.m.
And what time is it now?
I looked at my watch. It is now 9 p.m.
Oh shit! We've got to get a move. We still have so much to do.
She started walking to the car. At this time, I was already worn out from all the walking around, flying kites, catching fireflies, watching her struggle to catch fireflies. And I just wanted to go back home so I could finish the last level of Dragons and Warlords. Do we really have to do everything on your list tonight? I asked her. Can't we finish the rest tomorrow? She stopped, twisted around, and charged back towards me.
You said you wanted to do this with me.
She said, her tone completely shifted from high-pitched alto to low baritone in a matter of milliseconds. I could tell and feel the heat radiating off her body. I began to second-guess my previous, yet logical suggestion. Look, of course I do, I replied. And I still do. I just don't think we need to rush, that's all. We have plenty of time to get through the list. Her face transformed again, revealing a face I had not yet before seen, yet was all too familiar with. This must have been the face that handed Becky Larson her ass after finding out that she robbed her brother. This was the face of a pissed off, angry black woman, the same face my mother makes when I present credible arguments that disagree with her logic and she's about to punish me for talking back. She went from happy-go-lucky Lizzie to fuck you, you asshole Lizzie in the blink of an eye. By that point, I knew it was too late to take back my original suggestion. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. What's wrong with finishing this another day? I asked her. All I'm saying is we can take our time with this. Heck, we have the rest of our lives to finish this list. It's not like it's going anywhere. There really is no need for us to... She cut me off.
Listen, Spence. All we have is the here and now. There's nothing else that's guaranteed except for right now. Instead of focusing on time itself, focus on making the most of the time we have.
I could tell she was trying to calm herself down after giving her impassioned speech. As I said, she always has a way of getting people to fall for her. Her passionate speeches was one of the ways, and once she's gung-ho about something, there's no stopping her. I just smiled because it's one of the things that I love about her. All right, what's next? I asked. She smiled and put her hands behind her back as she skipped to the car.
The next item on the list is actually for you.
She answered.
You're gonna confront that bitch Regina.
Whoa, what? No, I'm not doing that.
Oh, come on, Spence, why not? She humiliated you in front of the entire school, and you didn't even call her out on it.
Because she's just not worth it, man.
It's not about whether she's worth it or not. People like her need to be reminded of how fucked up they are. And she really hurt you. She knew you had feelings for her, and she waited until the homecoming dance to go out with you, just so she could become homecoming queen. And then when you confessed your feelings in front of the whole school on stage, she just rejected you in front of everyone. Totally fucking messed up.
I wanted to thank her for bringing up the worst day of my life, but she would have just ignored my sarcastic comment and kept talking about it anyway. Yeah, well, I've moved on. Plus, she's like someone else's problem now.
Yeah, and she needs to know how much of a problem she is. Someone's got to tell her about herself. Otherwise, she'll just keep hurting more people.
She grabbed me by my cheeks and looked me in the eyes. The second time she looked directly at me.
You will never get hurt like that, ever again.
she said.
You hear me?
I nod my head. Yeah, I hear you. She let go of my face.
Good.
She said,
Now let's go get that closure.
we arrived in front of Regina's mansion and parked our car in the grass that sloped into a ditch a few feet away from her house. Her driveway was flooded with cars that lined all the way down until it reached the other side of the street. Lucky for her, she was surrounded by trees for miles, so she did not have to worry about neighbors. Most rich people would find her house to be nothing special, but to me, who lives in a one-bedroom shack-like apartment with 3 other siblings and a single mother, it might as well have been a palace in Dubai. From the look of it on the outside, one could think it was shipped over from the actual place itself. There were 5 long windows plastered from top to bottom on the front of the house. Stone-plated doors that looked almost to be 20 feet. A luxurious architectural design that would give Michelangelo a run for his money. We heard loud music and saw lots of people inside through the windows. It was definitely a party going on. I hesitated to ring the doorbell, so Lizzie, in typical Lizzie fashion, rang it for me. She's never been afraid to speak her mind or of confrontation, so she had no problem ringing the doorbell and calling her out.
Hey, Regina, get your skinny ass out here.
She yelled. She rang the doorbell repeatedly until someone finally answered. A girl, soaking wet with nothing but a bra and panties on, answered the door. Is Regina home? I asked, wondering if she could even hear me over the loud music.
Yeah, let me go get her.
The girl answered and she closed the door. The door opened again and it's Regina, wearing nothing but a bra and panties on as well. She answered with a smile on her face and was fixing her lips to say,
Come on in.
before she realized it was us. Her smile quickly evaporated and she stared blankly at us as we stood on the other side of the door in complete awkward silence for what felt like eons. Finally, one of us had to break the silence, and it was Regina. I guess after wrapping her head around the fact that we were standing in her doorway.
Spencer, Lizzie, what are you doing here?
She asked.
I didn't invite you to.
Oh, it sucks that we didn't invite to your orgy.
Replied Lizzie with a sardonic smile.
It's the phone party.
She said, rolling her eyes.
Uh-huh, sure it is.
Lizzie nodded her head and winked at Regina, fully aware that this was going to annoy her, and it did.
Whatever. What do you guys want?
There was an awkward pause as Lizzie and I both looked at each other. I felt her quietly nudging the back of my arm to speak, but I couldn't do it. I had thought about everything I was going to say to her the entire car ride, but as soon as she opened that door, I drew a blank. I'd forgotten my speech entirely. I felt like I was suffering from complete stage fright at that moment that no amount of practice could have prepared me for. I turned to Lizzie and slightly shook my head. She rolled her eyes at me and smirked.
Spencer has something he wants to say to you.
She said, pointing at me with her thumb.
Oh, really?
Said Regina. Her eyes glared up at me.
And what is it that you have to tell me, Spencer?
I'm gonna let the two of you, talk now.
Said Lizzie as she began to slowly back away. I quickly turned around and stared at her with bug eyes. Lizzie and I had been best of friends for a long time, but for the first time, we carried on a conversation telepathically. Without either of us opening our mouths, we understood exactly what the other was saying. I said, "What are you doing? You're just gonna leave me with her?" To which she responded saying,
I'll be right back. There's something I gotta take care of.
to which I then replied, "What am I supposed to do?" And then she replied,
Just tell her how you feel. You got this, Spence.
She then gave me an encouraging smile, turned around, and walked away.
Well, what is this thing that you've been dying to tell me?
Asked Regina, growing impatient. I could tell that she was already annoyed that I was taking up so much of her time and keeping her from enjoying her party. I took a deep breath and briefly closed my eyes, trying to gather my thoughts. As I opened them, I saw her closing the door. I thought to myself, is she really about to shut the door in my face? And all of a sudden, all of my emotions from that day came flooding back, and I remembered everything I wanted to say to her. I caught the door with my hand just before it shut all the way. I could feel a fiery sensation burning inside me as I stepped in between the doorway. Suddenly, I no longer had any stage fright, and as if my alter ego had completely taken over, I became a different person while speaking to her. I told her everything, how I felt about her, how I was so excited to take her to the dance, and how she played me for a fool in front of everybody. I told her how much it hurt and how I was devastated for months after it happened. I told her how I was embarrassed to come back to school because I didn't want to be made fun of. I told her how what she did made me contemplate taking my own life, and how to this day I have a problem with letting people in, and how I'm afraid to fall in love because I don't want to get hurt the same way that she hurt me. After listening to me bare my soul, she apologized, but her apology didn't seem sincere. It just seemed like she wanted to get me off her doorstep so she could go back to her party. Well, I just had to get all that off my chest. I told her.
I understand, and I'm sorry you felt hurt.
Yeah, it was tough to get over at first, but I think I can finally move on from this. So, no hard feelings, I guess. Suddenly, we heard a loud bang come from her garage and a car speeding off. We both turned towards the garage and saw Lizzie driving out of it. She drove the car into the street and then towards us. There was a loud screech in the road as she pulled up in front of Regina's walkway. She had a huge bumper tied to the rope on the back of the car, dragging it behind her. I took one look at Regina, and without a doubt, it was the bumper to her car.
What the fuck?
Yelled Regina, boiling with intensity. Lizzie rolled down the window. People inside began rushing out after hearing what they thought was an explosion or gunshot.
Hey, Regina, you like the new addition to my ride?
She yelled. Regina started screaming as the people outside started laughing and pointing at the bumper.
Lizzie, you bitch! I swear to God, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
She yelled.
Spence, you gonna get in or what?
Lizzie asked, and she motioned with her hand for me to get in. I looked back at Regina, who looked like she wanted to claw me to death, and ran to the car.
Hey, Regina.
Lizzie yelled as she revved up the engine.
Enjoy your orgy party, bitch.
And she sped off with the bumper bouncing up and down the street. I turned to Lizzie and saw her middle finger sticking through the side of the window as the bumper screeched behind us. I looked back, and Regina was still screaming as we continued driving down the street. Lizzie, why the hell did you do that? I asked.
That bitch had it coming.
She answered.
I knew she wasn't gonna see how fucked up what she did was. I know you too well, Spencer. You're too nice. And of a guy to lay it onto her heavy, so I did what had to be done.
Yeah, but ripping off the bumper of her car?
Her rich white daddy will just buy her a new one anyway.
I shook my head.
Look, you aren't the only one who's had beef with Regina.
She said.
I had my own gripe to settle with her.
I paused, wondering what Regina could have done to piss her off to this extent. Knowing Lizzie, it must have been something really personal. She never does anything this drastic without a valid reason. Wait, what beef do you have with her? I asked.
You remember when Ricky and I first started dating and we were like arguing all the time?
Yeah.
Well, come to find out, Regina was spreading fake rumors. She was telling everybody I was a slut and sleeping around and with other people and behind Ricky's back.
Whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah, She wanted us to break up so she could sneak and have him to herself.
I shook my head in disgust, just when I thought Regina couldn't be any shittier of a person. Yeah, you're right. She is a bitch, I said. Exactly.
Exactly. And me stealing her bumper is payback. Let her experience for herself how wrong it is to try and take something that doesn't belong to you.
We both looked at each other and grinned with evil satisfaction, knowing that justice had been served. Well, I'd be lying if I said that didn't feel good, I told her.
Oh, it felt real good. Did you hear her face? Did you see her face?
Yeah, it was epic.
Right?
After the dust settled on our celebratory conversation, I realized we were still driving, but I had no idea where we were going. I turned to Lizzie and saw her eyes glued on the road. I didn't know where we were going, but I could tell she did. It was clear at this moment that she was on a mission. And from the look in her eyes, I could tell this was going to be the most important on her list. The end.
And can y'all hear us? Can I get one more two of your big strong hands and move this big old thing out of my way? Two strong hands. So hard. Oh, thank you so much. Y'all give it up one more time for our leader. And so we have reached that portion of the evening where we segue into the end. So we want to make sure that you guys have space and opportunity to get to know the author, space and opportunity to ask questions about the book, about some of the things that you heard, maybe some of his inspirations and so forth. So I want to make sure that we have space to do that. Stage, author, poet, lyricist, Mr. Sean Harris.
Y'all give it up for Crystal Muse one more time. Yeah, she's about to head out right now. She's on the way to host our after party jam session. You guys all do anything after this? Jam session right down the street, Bull City Jam Session. Follow us on the social media page to get more information, but it's going to be right after this Q&A and right after the book signing. So I'm going to be signing books right out the door as you're walking out, and so y'all can see me right out front. But, you know, we're just going to take this moment, and first I want to thank each and every one of you for coming today. It means the world to me. This is the first time I've ever did anything like this. First time I've ever put any of my work out there like this, my heart out there like this. I do it in poetry, but, you know, I like to say that I'm a closet writer when it comes to storytelling, and so I'm finally able to come out the closet and share it with you guys for the first time. So give it up for yourselves. This story, just to give you a brief synopsis on this story, you know, this story is, as you can tell probably from the reading of it, it's about spending time with those who matter the most while you still have the time to do so. None of us know when tomorrow will happen, what tomorrow will bring. None of us know if we'll even be here. And as scary of a thought that is, it's a real thought. And sometimes we have to look at it and take the time to say, okay, what have I done today that mattered? Who have I spent the time with that mattered? And how have I made the most of that every second of that day? And so this was actually inspired for me by my late cousin Martin Lucas, who passed away due to heart failure. But one of the things that he taught me was that you have to take each second, each breath that you have is a gift from God. Every day you get 24 hours to live. And you get 24 hours to live the best life that you can, sometimes not even that. And so make the most of it. Spend it with those who matter the most and enjoy every single second. Because that's exactly what Martin did. He enjoyed every single second of his life. Quick story, I remember when I was little, me and my cousin Darius, we would always go on these little adventures with him whenever we would spend time with him. And he was much older than us, but he had the heart of a child, he had the innocence of a kid, and he had the love, the biggest heart that I've ever seen. And I remember he would take us on these random adventures where we'd be in the woods, and I'm like, I'm black, I ain't trying to do it. You know, be up in the woods, crossing lakes, and we was doing this whole journey where, you know, we was going through these woods. I remember crossing this lake on this log bridge, scared to death, and just to go to a gas station that was like 5 miles down from where he stayed at. But I remember he just took us on that journey, and he didn't think twice about it. He didn't think twice about the consequences. He didn't think twice about, you know, any of what could come in the future. He just enjoyed and lived in that moment. And that's something I try to do every day, and that's something when writing this that I, you know, try to impart, you know, through my words. And so hopefully I didn't answer too many questions, but if you guys have any questions, definitely love to take them now. Okay, cool.
When did you start writing?
I actually started writing when I was 9 years old. I started doing poetry and hip hop. It was kind of a way for me to, you know, I guess become popular in my class. I really didn't become popular. I just tried to keep myself from getting bullied or picked on. I would always be the kid that would be walking down the hallway with headphones on, listening to, you know, Nas and Jay-Z. Everybody, you know, sometimes, you know, I didn't even have headphones on. I just hear music in my head, and so I'm bopping. I'm like, oh, this is a great song that I heard earlier, and people were like, what's wrong with him? So I started, you know, rapping because, you know, I saw a movie, you know, I'm pretty sure most of you seen 8 Mile, and I saw Eminem up there, and he's killing it, doing all these battle raps, and I was like, if he could do that, I could do that. And so I just took my hand at it, started writing my own stuff, and, you know, it kind of grew from there, and then it turned into writing. I fell in love with writing when I started to watch a lot of stories when I was a kid. I mostly watch, you know, in-depth stories that go into these characters psychologically and just emotionally. And when I saw that, I saw the storytelling of it, I was like, man, I want to do something like that. And that was my dream. You know, I was playing sports at the time, and so I actually took that time. I was like, man, I want to do what I want to do, and what I wanted to do was write. So I just picked up a pen and just started to write my own story. Now, I never finished any of them. This is actually the first one that I finished.
That was that's because I
Oh yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much my story.
So how long did it take you to actually complete the work?
So it actually took me about, well, I actually originally wrote this as a short story. It wasn't even intended to be a book. I wrote it as a short story. That took me about a month to write. And then, you know, I let my wife Genesis read it, and she was like, you can turn this into a book. This is a book, a novel. And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah. So I went back, I did some editing, I added some more detail to the characters, some more fluff, and it turned into this book that we have now. And so that took me about 6 months.
So within a year?
Within a year, absolutely, through the editing process and everything. And so not too long, but it is a short story. It's about 72 pages. What you heard tonight was just half of the story. So once you guys get the book, and if you already have it, you can go back and read the rest. Hopefully it entices y'all to read the rest. Any more questions? Oh yeah.
So how did you get over any writer's block? How did you treat that?
Oh man, that's a really good one, and a really hard one, because there's some days where I have no words in my head to write. And it's like, okay, I was writing the story, I was so into it, I was inspired, and then all of a sudden I wake up one day and I'm like, oh, I have nothing to say. And it used to frustrate me because, you know, as an artist, you never want to get stuck. You always want to have something, whether it's experience, whether it's a story, whether it's, you know, as artists, people expect you to always have something in your head, always have something available. And I was so used to that doing poetry, and then, you know, in writing this, I had to come to grips and kind of learn that, oh, sometimes it's okay to walk away from something and come back to it. The hardest part is actually coming back, you know. It's a lot like life, you know. Sometimes we start something and then we'll walk away from it and let it go, or let it be and accept reality for what it is. But if we don't go back to it, if we don't try to understand it, if we don't try to learn from it, we don't grow at all. And so this was definitely a test for me to grow as an author and a writer. Yeah.
I love the spontaneity spontaneity of like what the characters do.
Oh, yeah.
How much of that was like predetermined? Did you have like an arc in mind, or did you kind of just like freestyle the events as they happened, kind of sort of knowing which direction you wanted to go?
Yeah, freestyle. That's I wrote it as if I was watching it myself or reading it myself. So most writers, they have an ending in mind. I didn't have an ending in mind with this. I just had the concept of the story. I knew what I wanted to tell, but I love actually writing stories like that without the ending in mind, because even I don't know what's going to happen. I kind of allow the story and the plot and the characters to dictate where things go. And so in writing it, I just kind of, was going piece by piece. And I was looking at it kind of like a TV show, an episodic TV show. So after I wrote one chapter, I'm like, man, I want to get to the next. Where is these characters going to go from here? How is, Lizzie, checking her phone? What's going to happen? What's up with that? Like, all of that was not predetermined, but I think it ended up turning out great. Oh, one more.
What has writing the book done for you that has opened you up to that you weren't opened up to before?
Wow. It's opening me up to receive a lot more criticism in my art. A lot of people know me for my poetry and know me for my lyrics, my rhymes, but this is the first time that I've had to open up myself in a different way, to open up myself as a storyteller and to tell a part of, and to give a part of me that I've never shown to anybody else. And so I feel like it's allowed opportunity for criticism, for feedback, but it's also allowed for opportunities like this where I can have these different ideas to where I can get a group of everyone together and say, hey, let's have a book reading, but let's do it different. Let's not have an author sitting on stage, and nothing wrong with that, but let's not have an author sitting on stage reading the novel to you. Let's have characters. Let's make a play out of it. Let's bring some entertainment to it, have music in the background. It just opened up to all these different opportunities that I, never thought about. And, in writing it, my intention for this was to actually fully immerse you guys within the story itself, so that you become fully immersed, so much so that you get a full sense of your imagination peak without actually having to see like you're watching a movie. So I kind of wanted to feel like a movie without seeing the characters, just hearing the voices and the music alone. So I say that's some of the things that it's opened me up to. That's my mom.
I'm glad you're open to a little bit of criticism because I got a little bit of grammar. We like English. But it was very good. I'm proud of you. On to the next one.
Thank you so much.
Make it a movie.
I try my best to, you never know. So I'm definitely thinking about that. Oh yeah, it's gonna happen for sure. We already got the character, so you never know. Also, give it up for the readers too, by the way. And also shout out to Larry's Coffee who sponsored this event. Shout out to everybody working behind the scenes to make this possible. Church the Poet for this event space. Sarah for providing the food and the drinks, and of course my lovely wife who has put all of this together. Yes, my lovely wife. I owe everything to her, and love you, babe. Thank you so much, and thank each and every one of y'all so much for coming out. I love each and every one of y'all. Y'all can see me at the booth in the back. I know we kind of over time, but also if you're free, come to the jam session. It's a dope, nice open mic. It's not really just an open mic. It's like free for all, free flowing. There's music, live bands. There's instruments, there's poetry, there's rap, there's hip-hop, singing. So if you're into all of that and you're into good vibes, come out to the jam session hosted by Christopher Hughes, who was a great host tonight. So, all right, thank y'all so much.
If you have any trash, make sure to get to the reception,
I carried it after I finished videoing.
I'm a fan.
Go for a little bit, we can just stop it for like
It's so the quiet is this right? I'll have to check it out. Yeah, I forgot what it's not too far. I think it's about 10 minutes away.
What is this? What is this on my time?
It's 55 nutrition shop.
Look, if you think that's wild, it's like drop at the end of the year. Look, you know what? I got some stuff tucked away.
All QR code.
It's hot. It's gonna be
borrow somebody for 2 seconds. Right.
I'm telling you,
Aggie right here too. So we're already good. Yeah. He's going to you. He's going to you too.
it's been a thing. I feel like it's an extra fun.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank y'all for coming out. I'm gonna be at the front. I'll see you on the You can't wait. Oh yeah. I hope y'all had a good night. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all so much. Excuse my left hand.
But that's a lot though, even to have three. That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying y'all have a whole lot. I say y'all have a lot of that. Y'all right. Y'all on the left, right, back. Thank you.
Love you too. Love y'all. Y'all have a good night.
Make it neat. And then you got to finish them up with myself.
Oh, yes, okay. Definitely.
It looks like it was on your face. Well, I might not get it. I might get You're doing your best handwriting. That's what gave you my reputation. That's a good thing. I want my own
Oh yeah, if you want me to sign the service later, I can definitely do that. Great. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Like y'all made it possible. I can't
Oh no, I'll be Wilson tomorrow. Birthday celebration. One of my friends' birthday, cousin's birthday.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, I've been left-handed for sure. I said I've been left-handed for sure. Hey, you already know. You already know. That's good.
That was dope. Like, all the whole time I'm kind of like, bro, this sounds like a good anime, bro.
Thank you. Pictured in my mind when I was y'all ready? Y'all read it? Hopefully y'all do the same thing.
Oh, you already know.
Imagine it like from a third person, like to see.
Yeah, because like the best thing about writing is when you can be descriptive enough to where somebody can actually visualize it, to where they're literally like standing on the sideline, like in some VR type shit, they're looking around. You know, that's pretty dope.
That's what I was trying to do. That's what I was aiming for.
Yeah, you did good. You did really good. You don't need any help for anything.
Nice to meet you. Might be good, but again, thank y'all so much for coming out. We definitely got to get together.
Yeah, we do. I'm planning. Planning one of them. Okay, so.
Okay, I definitely will. Yeah, sorry, you good?
So birthday, if I do it for my birthday, it will be until like next month.
Next month, okay.
Because like stuff is happening on my birthday, so I will be able to do it for February.
Okay, cool.
But trust me, as soon as I get it together, I'll let everyone know.
I'll keep you posted for sure.
Hi there. All right, now we're here with our new inspiring author, Sean Harris. We have a few questions for you here at Trey Jones Media. So, how long have you been writing on this?
This dude right here. Snap. Nah, I've been writing on. Nah,
It's wonderful.
Right. I've been writing since I was 9. It's definitely been, it's been a wild ride, to say the least.
What have been some of your inspirations for writing?
Well, you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you're one of my inspirations.
You been watching my broadcast?
You're right.
That's what's up, man. Hey, listen. Here on Channel 18, we get the real from the real. You understand how you feel. You feel it. Now, I want to know something else. Now, how did you meet that lovely woman that you're married to?
Oh, wow. That's an amazing story. So, I met Genesis at City Soul. If you don't know about City Soul, it's one of the best open mics in the
Best
triangle.
open mics.
Oh, yeah. I was working the door one night, and she was walking through the door, and I just felt the urge to want to high-five her. So I put my hand up. She, looked at me at first, kind of like, do I know you? And then I guess she saw something in me, and she just high-fived me. But when I saw her, I saw how beautiful she was, and I just saw a light in her, and I was like, I want to talk to her. But me being awkward, I didn't know what to do, so I just, hey, high five.
Hey, man, listen, I did the same thing once before I tried it, and a girl slapboxed me, homie. But hey, you gotta, you gotta, what works for you, brother.
All right.
Well, that's all we have to ask from the show. Thanks for being here. Tune in at 12 o'clock. This will be out somewhere, but not here.